A few weeks ago, I talked about how the long run can make you run faster for longer and how you can change things up this summer to help you get into the best shape for your upcoming autumn races. But there are some things that nobody talks about with regards to the long run, what you can expect when you're changing things up, and of course the things that you need to watch out for. Now, it's all well and good me sat here telling you guys to start working on your fueling, increasing the volume of your long runs, or maybe even throw in some long run workouts. And yes, these will massively benefit you, but let's tackle some of the things that people might not have mentioned. And the first thing that I don't think a lot of people really talk about is hitting a mini wall. So what do I mean by that? Well, effectively, you get massively depleted of your energy and you do suffer some extreme fatigue out there when you're on your long run. This tends to happen when potentially you're underfueled, dehydrated, or maybe you're just starting to increase those long runs in terms of volume and your body's just starting to get used to that little bit longer time on feet. If you're not best prepared for that long run by the fact that you might not be well hydrated or fueled, you might end up experiencing that mini wall. Now, we've all been there, we've all experienced it, we've all been out on those long runs when suddenly you've gone from ticking along nicely to that fear of dread because you can feel the energy draining from your system. Thankfully, I don't tend to suffer with this too much these days because I do really prioritize my fuel and hydration beforehand and my fuel and hydration during my long run. Something that I like to think of combating the mini wall, if we want to label it that term, is by doing a mini carb load the day before your long run. So if you think of your long run as a really important run of the week, and obviously you're going to be out there for some decent time on feet, you need your body to be ready for that. And so by giving it the fuel it needs the day before and of course the morning of, it's going to massively help you whilst you're out there, and it should avoid you hitting that mini wall. The second thing is, I think long runs teach you patience. Again, this is something that we don't talk about that much because we're aiming to talk here on this channel and plenty of other channels about how long runs can benefit you mentally as well as physically and really improve your fitness. But I think the key with a long run, especially when you get a bit more advanced and you start to incorporate long run workouts and maybe treat them as sessions more so than just easy long runs, is that you start to learn that you need to let the paces come to you rather than you forcing the paces. Again, I think we've all been through this when we transition from that going out for good time on feet to start turning them into sessions, maybe long run workouts, is if we force the paces too early on a long run and we really try and push, we're going to massively positive split that long run, maybe have to bail on that long run and really just suffer in more ways than one. I think the key with a long run is you've got to let those paces come to you. You've really got to lock into working by effort on those long runs. What a lot of people often find, especially if you're fueling throughout your long runs and are well fueled before, those paces will start to pick up as you go through the gears. If you treat things nice and calmly at the start, you'll be rewarded in the second half of the long run. I have mentioned the mental game of a long run and how it builds resilience in previous videos, and I think I even mentioned it in the previous one again. But what we've got to remember is sometimes when we get out for those longer distance races, whether it's a half marathon or a marathon, we can often get to a third of the way into the race feeling really good if we've gone out sensibly, but then it kind of dawns on us just how far we've got to go. And so we're teaching us the patience whilst we're out there during those training runs. It allows us to remember to be patient when we're out there doing the races, and then we can start to tick off mini milestones as we go through those races. Number 3, they're not always going to be that relaxed zen state that you think they might be. Sometimes they might be a grind, they might feel a bit boring, and quite honestly your head might not be in the game. And to be quite blunt, there's no worse run than being in that headspace than a long run. Reason being, you've got a lot of miles or kilometers to cover. I think it's really important just to remember life throws us stress, and sometimes we can go out there on an easy run or a session and go, do you know what, I'm really not feeling it today, but I can suck it up for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even 60 minutes. But if we're out there deep in training, maybe even deep in fatigue, and we're trying to get maybe a 90-minute, 2-hour long run done, those negative thoughts creeping in very early can really play a huge part in how that long run goes. And again, the more you do long runs and the more you can build them up, the more you get used to that sort of mental battle that you might have with yourself. But I think it's really important to remember that a lot of us enjoy the long runs, me in particular. Some people really don't. It's the worst run of the week for them, and I totally understand why. It's not for everybody, but for a lot of people it's a great time to go out there and just spend some good time on feet. But we're not always going to be in that right headspace. We can think back on a Monday and go, do you know what? I'm really looking forward to this weekend's long run. It's going to be a good one. By the time we get to Friday, everything that's happened in the week could have built up in here, and the last thing you guys want to be doing is being out there for a long period of time. So again, it's just remembering that not every single long run is going to be that relaxed, meditative, if I can even say the word, state that we think it might be. And before they can absolutely wreck the rest of your day. We've all seen those memes, haven't we, where you see runners lying on the sofa for the rest of the day after a long run. To be quite honest with you, again, I have been there, got that t-shirt plenty of times, and I'll talk about how to combat it shortly. But what we've got to remember is, especially if we are long distance training, I'll throw a half marathon in here as well as a marathon, when we are pushing our body and when we are depleting our body of its energy sources, we are going to feel absolutely rubbish, and it is going to take a few hours, even if we eat right straight after the run and we eat well and we eat healthy and we give our body what it needs. It really can take so much out of us. And again, I think if you guys have supportive partners in your relationships, if you are in a relationship, then that's great. I'm very lucky that I do have a supportive partner, but we definitely have had some crosswords over the years that, hey, you're going out for a 2-hour long run, but the day's been written off because you've been absolutely useless and haven't done anything. It happens, and I think it can really impact the rest of the day, the rest of the family around you. We mustn't forget that. And of course, that fatigue, if you don't put what you need back into your body straight after the run and for the rest of that day, can really impact things going forward. Now, again, this doesn't happen to me anymore, and the way I found to combat it is, as per the previous point, fueling well before the long run, giving it a good mini carb load and fueling and hydrating during that long run as well. If you take your tank down to empty whilst you're out on that long run, it is going to be a long way back to recover, and you will be that meme where you're lying on the sofa. If you don't get yourself to the point of depletion, and obviously you're just a bit low on energy at the end, but you've managed to keep yourself relatively topped up with your fueling and hydration whilst you're out there, plus you ate well the morning or afternoon before your long run and of course the day before, then you will find that you do not fall into that state. And finally, number 6, probably the biggest one out there, GI issues. You will experience them, most people will experience them. I should think, and I would bet a lot of money, that the majority of runners have had gut issues whilst you're out on the long run. This could be because of the food you ate the day before, the morning of, or even potentially the fuel that you are currently experimenting with, because of course that's something that we need to think about as well. When we're out there and we haven't quite got that fueling dialed in, we may be experimenting with a multitude of gel brands or drink mixes or energy chews or whatever it is. We're going to be testing them. Some will work, some won't. You might be in that select few runners that has absolutely no issues with fuel. You can pick up any running gel brand. You might have an iron stomach, and I am very jealous of you. I can promise you, you are definitely an outlier. The majority of us need to do a bit of trial and error. And so you might be heading for the nearest public toilet, or potentially even planning your route around where the toilets might be, especially if you are practicing fueling. GI issues can really wreck long runs. It can be horrific to the point where you get stomach cramps, and then you might need to do something about that. But then even beyond that, those stomach cramps might continue. I, in the past, have had various situations where I've just had to pull the plug on a long run, and it's not fun whatsoever. And those cramps can go on for a little bit longer. And coming from someone with a bit of gluten intolerance, honestly, the smallest thing can set me off. I have managed to once again get myself into a routine now where I know what to eat the night before, the morning of, and of course during on the run, so I don't get this issue too much anymore. But of course, if I've eaten something a little bit dodgy, roast dinners for me are probably my kryptonite, even over spicy food. If I go out the next day, I can guarantee you I'm going to get some kind of small GI issues as a minimum. So be prepared for them. Get your trial and error done as quickly as possible. Find what works for you in terms of gels and hydration. Stick with it. Learn what works before your run, the morning of your run, and just rinse and repeat that as much as you can. I promise you, experimenting with fueling is a necessary in the beginning, but when you have found what works, stick with it. So those are the 6 things that I strongly feel a lot of people don't talk about. Of course, long runs, I promise you, they are my favorite run of the week, and they're great. I know a lot of people don't agree with me, some people do, but for building fitness, they're absolutely brilliant, second to none. And I'd argue that there's not one more important run in your weekly routine other than the long run. It is just absolutely fantastic. But of course, as I said, it does come with a fair few downsides, like I've just mentioned, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. It's very popular to talk about the benefits of long runs, but of course, there are definitely some negatives and downsides. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic, and if there's anything else that you guys feel you can add to this discussion, please do drop them in the comments below. And if you missed the first video on the benefits of a long run, make sure you check out this video up here. This is a good one. And if you want to see how I got on at my my recent race, check out this video down here and I'll see you guys over on one of those.